Hello and welcome. My name is Gemstone, and today we are back in the story of our life, beginnings and always. We're going to continue right from where we left off as usual. And this time it was in the middle of an event. So right now we are at the Orca fundraising dinner, I believe. So Orca is the organization that we volunteer for that helps sea life and clean up the beach and stuff like that. So we're here at our fundraising dinner with all the fancy people, and we're gonna try and... I don't know if we're serving or attending, but we're gonna see how it goes. Hello, Sky. Welcome. How are you doing today? So yeah, we've just entered this absolutely beautiful dinner area with giant aquariums and crystal lighting, and this is swanky. And we're getting right into it. So, despite the small holdup, you managed to ultimately make it to the event and confirm you were on the guest list before being shown into the dining area. Ah, look, he's in his little fancy outfit. So cute. Okay, just doing some late evening work stuff. How about you? I'm pretty well. I hope that your work stuff is going well. Cove whistled low as he looked around, taking in the extravagance of the room. Chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and the entire place was decked out with beautiful oceanic displays. You were stunned yourself. It was extremely high class, even more so than you had already expected. It's so nice. You had to be impressed by the work that had gone into making everything look this lovely, and how everyone had dressed up in their best outfits for the night. Seeing Cove smile as he took in the sights made you think he must be feeling the same way. Heck yeah. Even if you're not super comfortable with events, how can you look at this and be, not excited at least a little bit? The sound of your names being called out echoed over the din in the room. When you looked around, you recognized a couple of the organization leaders looking your way. They approached you both in greeting, giving you a welcoming smile and a hello. Cove, Gemstone, we're glad you could make it, especially after all the hard work you've done to help make this night happen. Definitely. I wasn't gonna miss it. Hello. I'm thrilled to have made it. The place looks amazing. It's so nice to do something like this. Well, thank you for being part of the team. You're always welcome to help us out with activities whenever they come up. Thank you. Cove shrugged then, eyes darting around the place with an awkward look. I guess we should talk to more people. There isn't much else to do at an event like this. You found your way into groups of people who were standing around chatting, while some light music played in the background. Servers with large silver trays were gliding between the guests, offering drinks and canapes. So fancy. Cove approached various people as you wound your way through the guests. He managed broaching new conversations well. You were enjoying talking to so many different people, both guests and members of the organization alike, and found yourself enjoying the company. The sound of a microphone crackling came from the podium at the other end of the room. Someone who you assumed must be the host for the evening was asking everyone to sit down in preparation for the meal and speeches. You and Cove looked for your table, finding it easily enough by the name cards that were placed delicately beside the napkins. Alright, so we're attending. Wow. A few others joined you at the table, though they weren't anyone that you recognized. Guess we aren't serving, yeah. I wonder if we're, supposed to be chatting up donors. Making conversation, telling them a bit about what we're doing, stuff like that. The host was still speaking as people were settling, starting off the speeches by giving a welcome to everyone attending. She went on to provide some information about Orca, which you supposed was for the guests who weren't a part of the organization, and the purpose of the fundraiser tonight. Orca's goals, as she explained it, were to aid in the conservation and restoration of oceans and beaches. There were many people who had helped to make the group as successful as it was. When she read off a list of several volunteers who worked on making the event happen, Cove's name was one of the first to come up. His chest puffed out in pride at that. Your name then came up a little further down the list. You were smiling from ear to ear at the mention. As she continued on to thank the large donors for the event, you checked over at Cove. He was still grinning happily to himself and tapping his fingers over the tops of his knees, pretty pleased to have been mentioned by name. You could relate to that feeling. It felt good to be acknowledged for all the work you had done leading up to the event. You likely had kept smiling without even realizing it. While the host continued speaking, multiple servers dressed in black were setting the first course of the menu in front of guests. One of the servers set down a plate in front of you, and you thanked them quietly before looking over the dish with interest. You recognized the dish as a simple Caesar salad. Oh, restaurant Caesar salads. They always hit different. This is gonna be great. The host quickly wrapped up the end of her speech, thanking everyone once more before inviting you all to begin your meal. Alrighty. Anyone who had included a special dietary note when signing up for the event received a vegan or vegetarian version, and there were also small baskets of bread set around the table. Salad and the bread. Cove wolfed down his salad before munching into a breadstick, quickly devouring that as well. I guess he's hungry. I hope the next part comes out soon. And is bigger. He a hungry boy. You could hear him mumbling to himself as he reached over for another piece of bread. He glanced around the table, and you followed his line of sight with curiosity, noting that everyone else was still eating the salad. Stopping his hand midair, he quickly pulled back and rested it on his lap without taking another breadstick after all. It was clear that he was starting to feel unsure of himself, and he looked a little out of place here. He folded his arms and turned away from them to you. Hey, did you like the salad? It was really good. I can't wait to see what else they serve. His gaze remained purposefully tunneled on you, as if he was trying not to even think about what the rest of the table might be doing. What the heck? Why can we do that? You gave Cove a pat on the hand. His lips tilted up at the corners, and he seemed touched by the reassurance. It wasn't much longer until the main course was arriving, and the various chicken, steak, and veggie dishes were being served throughout the room. An array of scents wafted through the room, making your mouth water. Ooh, fancy meats. Okay. Typically, I eat the chicken, but since I'm not paying... No, since it's such a fancy place, I feel like I eat chicken a lot more often, so I would definitely choose the steak because it's fancy. It was nice that you had been given the option of how you liked your steak cooked, and the meal on the plate in front of you seemed perfectly to your taste. Don't hate me, well done. Cove had also gone for the steak, and once he started to dig in, he was completely absorbed by his meal. You focused on your own food. Oh, well, the game really gives you the option to be ruthless. Yeah, it sure does. Why would I do that? Like, if you're in a mall with a bunch of rowdy teenagers at the table or something, debatable. But we're in a swanky, fundraising dinner with influential people and other people who worked hard at this. Oh, man. Sorry, 1 second. Alrighty. Focus on your own food. Well, yeah, you focused on your own food. It was going to be a full evening, so you wanted to try eating something while you could. Dinner eventually ended, and last of all was dessert. A lemon sorbet that had been partially dyed blue. Ooh. Blueberry lemon sorbet. I know it's not actually blueberry, but it looks like it. The mix of white with with blood streaks, with bold streaks of blue, made the little scoop look like a ball of roaring ocean waves. Oh, that sounds so good. The effect was very pretty, but the serving size was small. Perhaps it was the price to pay for artistry. You turned to Cove to find him pouting a little at the size of it. That is valid. Fancy stuff. Oh, man. But we could always just go out for, like, vanilla ice cream cones after. Digging into the dessert, it took him only a few bites to polish it off. Again, the other people around the table had barely even begun eating. An unimpressed stare settled over him as he sat back in his chair, sipping at his water unhappily. Aw. We can get more dessert later. You gave him an encouraging smile. He looked up at you sheepishly, embarrassed to have been caught sulking over such a thing. He fumbled for a defense. It was just really good, that's all. And now it's gone. But I'm okay. With a slight grin, he shrugged to show that he was really fine. Would you like a bite of mine? You scooped up a spoonful of your sorbet and offered it to him, holding a hand beneath it to avoid any drips. His eyes widened as he eyed the dessert hungrily, surprised by the offer. Recovering quickly, he leaned forward over the table, lifting out of the chair a little as he ate the treat from your spoon. As he sat back, humming happily with his mouth full, you couldn't help but smile at the sight. Cove swallowed the faux ocean and let out a satisfied sigh. Even though it wasn't that much more, the simple fact that he had gotten more hit the spot. That's such a mood. Just that little bit more. You're welcome. You were pleased to see he was Berkier, and you went back to eating the rest of your dessert. Listen, I want some of this too. I'll give him a bite, but I want some. Another person from Orca got up on stage to make a speech as everyone was nearing the end of their meal. Oh no, your internet just buzzed out. Yikes. Cove was upset about a small portion of ice cream. We gave him a scoop of ours. And we both enjoyed it. You didn't miss too much. Except him pouting over ice cream. They spoke mostly about the individual projects that the organization was working on, and their plans for the near future, as well as encouraging anyone who is interested to consider volunteering. Cove bent forward over the table with his chin balanced on a hand, listening attentively to the words. As they came to a conclusion, and everyone gave them a round of applause, Cove caught your eye and smiled. You wondered what would happen now. Wait, no, now I want ice cream. And then the lights dimmed. A couple of spotlights came on, projecting a water light effect throughout the room. Ah, that's so pretty. Wow. The guests gushed over the ambiance, and you looked around with wide eyes at the ripples on the walls. The DJ that had previously been playing some soft mood music in the background announced that the floor was open for dancing, slowly turning the volume up so it drifted through the space. Dancing? Wow, this really is a fundraising dinner, huh? When you glanced at Cove, his eyebrows had shot up, and he mumbled quietly. I didn't know there would be dancing. He's got the ripples all over him, that's really cute. I guess it makes sense now that I think about it. He's like dimmed and it's got the ripple lighting on it. That's such a good attention to detail. He gave an awkward laugh as you both watched as people rose from their seats. It was clear now that many of the donors were couples. A small crowd had started to form on the dance floor, and the DJ played a romantic song to get everyone started off. Cove let his gaze float over Cove let his gaze float over the small sea of guests, and he seemed lost in thought. A serious expression had settled on his face, making his eyebrows dip. Oh. Slowly he turned to you, though there was something cautious in his approach. He's blushing! Do you I mean, would you wanna dance with me? I'd love to. His face lit up. You could tell even beneath the dim light. He nodded firmly as he rose from his seat, though you noticed his hands shaking at his sides. Oh. You walked out onto the floor together, hesitating a little when you turned and stood face to face. I do not know how to dance. I've never danced with people. Eesh. The closest I got was like standing on the dance floor when other people were dancing around. And I guess like the songs that direct you, like the one that's like, slide to the left, slide to the right. Those ones are easy enough to do. Cove had a hard time meeting your eyes, but he lifted a hand for you to take, unsure of what else he was meant to do. You accepted his hand easily and gave him an encouraging smile. It took some doing, but amidst your nervous laughter, you managed to find a comfortable enough position and set a rhythm to the music. Aw, his little wiggly smile. It was quite nice after that. Every time your eyes met Cove's, he would look away quickly, but he seemed to be enjoying the dance nonetheless. These babies are so precious. Eventually, he felt comfortable enough to speak. A lot has happened, huh? You nodded faintly. You weren't sure if he meant just today, this summer, or your entire time knowing each other. But it didn't really matter. It was true either way. Thinking back on the years that you and Cove had been neighbors, it was difficult to even try to reflect on it all at once. I mean, that makes sense. It has been over half our lives. Aw. I'm glad we ended up here. He gave you a soft look and you beamed, knowing that could also mean many things. But from his tone, you were certain he didn't only mean here at this event. It was more than that. Well, I'd probably rather be on the hill looking at fireflies with him, but since he was referring to the whole adventure that we've had so far, there's nowhere else I'd rather be. You loved him. Fully and completely you did. Ah, glad I chose that one. The party eventually started to wind down, and at last it came to an end. When the main lights turned on, you blinked against the brightness of them, making sure you still had Cove in your sights. If it was a swanky event, they would definitely come on slow so that the guests didn't get blinded. One final speaker came up to the podium on the stage, thanking all the guests for coming, and wishing everyone a good night. It was bittersweet to see it come to a close. Your time with Cove here was precious. At least the memories could be brought with you. Giving the space one more look, you walked together with Cove out to the parking lot. The other guests were doing the same, so you got stuck in a bit of a crowd. Though Cove was so tall you could always see him, and it was easy enough not to get separated. The parking lot itself was quite big, and even more noticeable now with fewer cars blocking the view. It took a little while to actually locate Cove's car across its expanse. But we've got free reign of the place. There's not another single car. Eventually you found it, and the two of you bundled inside the vehicle and buckled up. The trip home was quiet, as you both silently reflected back on the experience. The event had been the biggest night of the year for Orca, and now it was all over, just like that. Yeah, events do be like that, huh? Outside your window, the surroundings soon became familiar, and you found yourselves back in your neighborhood. Cove pulled the car into his driveway and put it in park before letting out a relieved breath. Home sweet home. Yeah. After climbing out of the car, you walked slowly down to the road, Cove coming over to stand beside you. You stopped in the middle of the street, right between your house and his, and turned to him, finding him in the process of opening his mouth to speak. What? Strangely, he clamped his lips together, as though he had suddenly thought better of it. You also stayed silent. There was an unusual atmosphere hanging about. It was hard to know what to say. Hug or hair ruffle? Those are both pretty cute. You know, it's been a big night. We did a lot to get here. Let's step in for a hug. You went forward and wrapped your arms around him, and he returned the gesture, squeezing tight. With a last wispy smile, he left towards his front door. Figuring you shouldn't linger in the street for much longer, you crossed the remainder of the road and did the same. When you reached your house, you pulled out your keys and stuck them in the door, trying your best to be silent about it. Opening the door crack, you turned back and looked at Cove from over your shoulder. Your eyebrows lifted in surprise to see he was doing the same, holding his front door open, but waiting for you to go inside before he did. You shared an amused smile before you both stepped into your own houses, locking the doors behind you. It was quite late, so everyone else was already asleep. As quiet as a mouse, you tiptoed up to your bedroom and changed out of your formal clothes into your pajamas. Now that you were finally home, you were exhausted. You brushed your teeth and got ready for bed in darkness, before crawling under the covers and letting out a heavy breath. It was still strange to think about how that was it. The build-up to the event had felt like so much. Now it was completely behind you. Your mind was busy with rapid yet muddled thoughts as you faded closer and closer to sleep. Knock at the window? Oh. As unconsciousness creeped up on you, you felt more content. It was a big deal, but there would be more in the future. You could accept what it had been, and you could dream about what you'd get to experience next. Oh, lovely. Oh. Yes, called it! And then you were taken away from dreams right back into reality by a sound. Your eyebrows pinched together, fully unprepared to be a part of the waking world again. The day was over, and it had been an eventful one. But you heard another noise. It was a tapping. Your eyes flew open. The window. There was a tapping that came from your window. I called it. Heck yeah. I was like, no way. Cove Holden. You rushed over to him. You tumbled out of bed, taking your blanket with you. You left it on the floor when you scampered over to the window. Oh. You saw through the glass that Cove's eyebrows were raised, and you suddenly realized that in your rush, you hadn't taken care to be quiet. He had probably heard you crash to the floor. But that wasn't the matter at hand. You flung open your window and faced him completely, with nothing separating the two of you any longer. You had not been surprised to find Cove awkwardly crouched on your window ledge. However, you were taken aback to see that he was a little overdressed. Cove hadn't changed out of his formal clothes. You also noticed he was perched clumsily. You didn't know if it was because he was trying to keep his fancy clothes clean, or if he felt weird about something. His body was too stiff and awkward. Cove smiled sheepishly. Hi, Gemstone. Hi. You moved aside and let him climb inside. He cautiously stepped down by stretching his legs over. Strangely, he didn't use his hands for support. It was clear to you now. He was holding something. When he was safely back on his feet, he briefly checked out his clothes, twisting around to see the back of his pants. He caught you looking and shrugged. I did go home after the event, but I knew I wasn't going to be able to settle down, so I just walked back out. I needed fresh air and time away from everything. Yeah, recharge after a big event? Heck yeah. He paused for a moment and raised his clasped hands together where you could see them. Let it be a flower, please let it be a flower. But then something happened, and well, so I have something I want to show you. Cove grinned like a child and gently unfurled his fingers, not being able to keep you in suspense for even a minute. A red rose. Carefully, sitting inside was a tiny yellow light. It blinked off and then on again. A firefly. The fireflies are back. Delicately, he moved his hand closer so you could see the creature better. They're back. Oh, lovely. He closed his eyes, his smile now faintly illuminated by his insect companion. Remember the first time I caught one? I always will. I could barely manage anything because of that neon pink cast I was stuck with all summer. You were still stunned by what was happening, but couldn't help snickering when Cove did. It was all thanks to you that I finally held a firefly in my own hand. Oh, this is so beautiful. I was happy to. Honestly, I didn't think I'd see them again this year. I don't know why. It's just they were kind of late, and I guess I've been worrying about a lot of stuff lately. An insect, wow, thanks, man. Oh, come on, Sky, this is sweet. It's more about the memories. And they're the first ones of the season. You could tell that the firefly genuinely lifted his spirits. He seemed at peace, and he wanted to share that with you. See, it's really sweet. The fact that his first thought after discovering the fireflies was to come over and celebrate the joy with you made you suddenly feel very cherished. Cove opened his eyes, but looked away, not meeting yours. Don't let the bug go in my room, please. It's really nice, I think. Even if the fireflies disappear for a while, it doesn't mean they're really gone. They'll come back. I can see them again. Aw, is this about us having to separate for school and stuff? You smiled, and then you looked at the firefly keenly. There was definitely something poetic about them. You felt a warmth in your heart. Like, don't get me wrong, I love a cute bug or a pretty butterfly, but come on, man. Oh, man, Sky. Aw. Cove looked at your face, his smile now fragile. It makes me think about the two of us. We're together, and then we say goodbye, and then we're together again. Day after day, year after year, and even if our time apart gets longer, that doesn't make it forever. Oh. We can look at those without capturing them and releasing them into my room. That's right, Glagus. We should go outside. We should go to the hill together. Gemstone, I'll always be there, whenever you want to see me. Oh, this feels like a big choice. You wanted to be with him, there was nothing else you wanted then, and he needed to know. Or you quietly said his name. Are we going full-blown confession, or are we just saying his name because it's a very sweet moment? Oh, I want both. That's right, man. Just put a bug into my bedroom. This thing is gonna buzz around all night. Oh, man. Alright. Which one? They're both so good. You quietly said his name. Cove. You couldn't say a word. You teared up. Your eyes suddenly watered, and you tried to contain your wave of emotion. Cove chuckled, suddenly shy. Then he put an arm around your neck and relaxed into the half-hug. The firefly suddenly flew off, blinking once, and then twice as it looked for another perch. It went dark, and then you saw it reappear outside your still-open window. Cove didn't seem to mind. Thank goodness it found its way out instead of me finding it dead years later. Cove looked at you, affection plain in his face. Hey, Do you want to go out onto the hill? The fireflies are still there. You nodded yes. Cove brightened. He was practically bouncing at the thought of a secret excursion before he suddenly became bashful. So how should we leave? We could just try the door. We don't have to do the window thing, but maybe that'd bother your family? Are you kidding? If I had a window that I could safely-ish climb out of, I absolutely would. I would use that as the standard exit. That sounds so fun. Out of all the moments for my internet to stutter. Oh no. Not again. The firefly flew out the window. He said he'd always be there for us and we teared up. And then he asked if we want to go out to the hill. And I said yes. So now we're gonna sneak out. You both chuckled at how awkward it would be if your moms, or worse, Liz, saw you going out on a midnight firefly catching trip. You'd be sure to avoid that. You could leave from your window. Let's go through the window. Cove nodded in understanding. You grabbed some shoes and readied yourself for an adventure. Heck yeah. You were glad that there was no way you'd run into another soul outside. Cove would be way overdressed, and you were still in your jammies. Good justice for the firefly. You let Cove go first. He stepped back onto the ledge as you carefully followed. He shuffled along and soon you reached the garage. You planned to use the fence from there to reach the ground. Cove climbed down to the fence. He wobbled once, but he made it without an issue. He leaned against the fence and projected hushed words up to where you were waiting. Do you want help? You shook your head no. I can do this. You reached the ground with ease. It wasn't difficult, especially with the fence there to help you. I'm doing this all the time. Cove gave you an encouraging smile, but neither of you risked speaking yet. You briskly snuck behind the house and up to the old white poppy hill. And Cove was right. The entire hill was lit up, insects twinkling here and there with their pale yellow light. Oh, so pretty. Sorry, yawn. Cove let out a contented sigh, finally able to relax in full. He strode further up the hill to better enjoy the view. You walked along as well, letting yourself be surrounded by the twinkling display. Then, without warning, Cove plopped onto his back. He paid no mind to smacking his formal attire in the grass. He put an arm under his head and stretched the rest of his limbs out. He was clearly getting quite comfortable in the dirt here. Or in the dirt there. You laid down in the grass. I'm joining him, are you kidding? You sat down first and then fell back. You could see the stars when you looked up at the night sky. I wonder if Dad will be mad about the grass stains. He tugged at the collar of his shirt. He didn't sound concerned, just idly curious. Maybe you should figure out how to clean it before he finds out. His smile bent a little, and it went silent between you. The only sounds were the rustling of bugs in the breeze, and the faraway crashes of waves on the sea. Oh, this would be so cute. Oh no, this would be so cute. Okay, should we dance? Or should we watch? This sounds so cute. I don't want to do that one. I don't really like catching fireflies so much. If they land on you, that's epic, but catching them, you could hurt them, so should we ask him to dance? We've had a long day, maybe just continue watching. It was easy to be swept away by the atmosphere. Fireflies and stars, all glowing in the night, and white poppies glittering by their light. The view brought back precious childhood memories. Both of you were determined to take in as much as you could. You smiled with contentment as the fireflies danced. The hour grew late, and the fireflies mostly dispersed, until only a few stragglers remained. Then even they blinked out of sight, leaving you alone with Cove and your thoughts. It felt as though this was a night that would never end, but you knew it would have to, all too soon. You were only grateful to have been a part of it. These were moments to treasure, and you already knew you'd be remembering them for a very long time. Oh, it is so cute. Alrighty, let's go into talks. Before we start this, so I am continuing into talks, but before we start this, I do have work today, so I may have to leave a little bit early. So I don't know if we'll get through the whole thing, but we'll try. And second, I'm actually going to be going away for a little bit, so I will not have a stream next week. I believe I will be back the week after, but, you know, that depends on how tired I am. So next week, there will be no stream, and then the week after, we will likely be continuing our story. Just to let you guys know. And I will, I'll say it again at the end just to make sure. Oh, vacation. Yeah, I'm going house and dog sitting for a week and a half-ish. A week. And then, you know, a couple days of prep before and after. But yeah, so let's get into it. Maybe we can finish this, we'll see. But it looks like this and the next one will be our last two, I think. Another placid summer day was drifting by. Your daydreams were chasing each other, none sticking around long enough to become a firm plan. But you didn't really mind that right now. A tapping worked its way into those dreams. Focusing more, you realized it was coming from your window. A grin popped on your face as though it had been waiting all day for this moment. That's a really cute way to say it. Heading to the window, you could see Cove outside. His habit of climbing this way really was a true Coveism. He'd rather scale your house than wait the couple extra minutes for you to come down. Oh, got to say a vacation sounds good right about now. It's about time, yeah. You held out a hand to him. You offered Cove a hand to help him. Once he was mostly inside, he took it to help steady the last bit of his entrance. Though considering how many times he'd done this, he hardly needed the help. Oh, he's so cute. Hey to you. You think my mom should invest in some bigger windows? Cove laughed at that and took one last look at his exclusive entrance. He hummed with a teasing look on his face. It'd make my life easier, that's for sure. Cove's voice came out quietly, with a strangely pleased smile on his face. Did something happen? Cove opened his mouth to answer, only to have your phone vibrate and cut him off. Huh? You both turned to where it rested a little further up on your bed. It was still face down, so you couldn't tell who was calling. It's okay. Your attention shot back to Cove. He smiled at you awkwardly. Go check. It could be important. I'll wait. Thanks. You shuffled forward and scooped the little noisemaker into your hand. You flipped it over and checked the caller ID. It's Miranda. Oh, you should answer it. I want to say hi too. With a nod, you accepted the call and set it to speaker. Ah, we've got a gold phone. Heck yeah. Hi, Miranda. Hi. Huh? Oh no. Is she moving away? There was something off about her tone. Cove met your gaze, and you saw the same confusion in his expression. Huh? Or did you hear about her from Cove? Huh? No, she hasn't called me. But Cove is with me right now. Hey. Oh, hi, Cove. Is that what you were going to say? He shook his head no, before realizing that it wasn't a good enough answer when only one person could actually see it. Terry hasn't called me today either. Is something wrong? Huh? At that, Miranda couldn't hold herself together any longer. The muffled sobs from the other side of the line were unmistakable. Huh? Terry doesn't like me anymore. If she ever did. What? That doesn't sound right. You're probably her best friend out of all of us. Yeah, why do you think that? She sniffled, and there was a pause as he could hear her shift the phone to the other hand. Terry was here the other night watching movies with me. We were up super late. She realized her parents probably went to bed, so they couldn't pick her up. My mom and dad were definitely asleep then. Dad works early. I tried telling her it was okay to just spend the night, and she could text her parents what happened, but Terry really didn't want to. You glanced at Cove. He looked equally unsure as you about where this story was going. It didn't sound like a friendship-ending situation. I suggested to make it easier if she was nervous, like she could sleep by herself in my room while I stayed somewhere else. Yeah? And I said we didn't have to sleep at all. We could have kept watching movies until one of our parents woke up. I wouldn't have minded. I know not everyone can do sleepovers, but Terry wouldn't even tell me what was really wrong, or what I could do to help. I thought we could tell each other anything. I guess I was wrong. Did she stay in the end? No. We got too loud in the kitchen and my dad woke up. He offered to drive her home when he heard what was wrong. She texted me, apologizing for my dad having to do that when he needed rest, but that was it. She isn't talking to me anymore. You could hear every bit of the tears and heartbreak in Miranda's voice. This continued to be a shock for your neighbor, but Cove recovered and spoke gently. I'm really sorry. There's no way Terry wanted to make you feel this bad. Or that she's just done with your friendship because of this. Miranda's sniffing continued. You hoped she had plenty of tissues handy. It'll be okay. It had to be. You couldn't imagine any alternative. Miranda's voice sounded a little more collected after finishing her story, but you knew that the crying was far from being done. I thought she'd have reached out to one of you by now. Maybe she's not talking to anyone. Yeah. Sorry for bothering you and Cove about this. Hey, we're here for you. You can tell us things. Thank you. Her shaking voice finally conveyed a little optimism, or at least relief that she wasn't dealing with it entirely on her own. If you do hear from her or anything, could you let me know if she's alright? We can. Thanks. Let's talk later, okay? Bye. 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 That didn't really seem like an especially productive point to end the call, though you also weren't sure where to go from there. Looking to Cove, his face seemed as lost as yours. With no alternative, you hung up and put your phone back on your bed. Cove crossed his arms, a frown creasing his face. He began to pace the length of your room, clearly trying to put the pieces together in his head in a way that made sense. You were worried. Biting the inside of your cheek, you stared at the ground. Hearing Miranda so distraught like that was not easy. And what about Terry? The uncertainty was tearing you up. The empty state of your head before learning this was not helping you now. You couldn't put two thoughts together, and flopping back on your bed, you stared into space. We should probably try calling Terry. Cove's voice managed to drag you back into some grounding. He'd stopped pacing, but you still saw a perturbed look on his face. Yeah, I'm worried about her too. You bounced up and moved to his side, ready to act on whatever plan you two could come up with. Cove started with the easiest thing. He pulled out his phone and called Terry. Cove let it ring, and ring, and ring, and ring. Terry didn't answer. There wasn't even an option to leave a voice message. Your shoulders slumped, and Cove looked even more troubled, if that was possible. He turned to you as if for some lifeline. Could you try calling? I'm gonna send a text like, hey, I was trying to reach you and call me, or something. Yeah. You took up your phone once more. Unfortunately, after another set of interminable rings, the line went dead. No answer. No voicemail. What's going on? Hanging up, you saw Cove visibly deflate. He rubbed his arm, eyes distant. openly struggling with the whole affair. I don't like this at all. They're fighting, we barely know anything, and we're supposed to just wait and see? Despite it only being a minute since he texted Terry, Cove checked his phone again. He was desperate for progress, for something, and he frowned as he watched him. You need to try to relax. Cove stared hard at the screen, as though he was trying to will a new message to appear. As your words sank in, his gaze slid over towards you. Just a little bit? Come on, you're working yourself up. Closing his eyes, he took a deep breath and released it slowly. It wasn't much, but you could see him ease up slightly. Yeah, you're probably right. Cove was still gripping his phone with both hands, as though it might fly away if he let go. He looked to you with almost painful earnestness. What do we even say if we do hear from one of them? His pacing resumed as he attempted to answer his own question. We should probably tell them to talk to each other instead of only us, maybe? He slowly came to another halt, like a gear winding down. We should find out Terry's side of the story. Nothing could be done until you knew what she thought of this. That much was certain. Cove nodded slightly in agreement. For several minutes, you both remained there in silence, drowning your thoughts. Eventually, Cove turned around. I'm gonna text Terry that we already know what's going on. Maybe she'll have an easier time talking to us, Boo, because she won't have to pretend or explain. The music is, like, dramatic. Might be the only way, can't do that. Too overwhelmed, pushing too much, not a good idea. Fixated. I feel like... Okay. Miranda didn't say it was alright to admit she talked to us. We're all friends? We're in a friend group, and it makes sense that if one goes dark that you contact the other ones to see? Too overwhelmed, I don't know. Upset, your voice got caught in your throat as your thoughts were pulled in too many directions. Cove took your silence as a go-ahead. Cove's fingers worked furiously, yet carefully. He was giving his full attention to his words. You sidled up next to him and looked, trying to watch what he was writing. Cove rapidly typed out, Hey, Gemstone and I really want to talk to you. Miranda told us what happened. Please reply back. And sent. It was done. We'll just have to see what happens now. That is so... Yikes, you can really be brutal. What? Yeah, hopefully she gets back to us pretty soon. Why are so many of these so, like... Yikes. Me too. From just his face, you could tell this wasn't going to do much for him. He was going to be stuck thinking about this until Terry replied. A small noise escaped his lips. All the frustration at the situation crumbled away from his face, and he spoke softly. Thanks, Gemstone. I'm glad it's not just me with all this happening. I would be far more worried about physical safety rather than thinking there was some fight going on I needed to take a side on. Yeah, no kidding. She's not replying to any of us, and her voicemail isn't working. That means her phone's, like, off or out of power or, like, specifically turned on no contact. Cove took one last look at his phone and then put it away. His effort at a smile was meager, but earnest. We can just forget about it for a while. Terry will talk to us when she wants to. I'm glad I'm not alone in this. Could you leave? You simply nodded back. Wait, no, that's not what I meant. He smiled, just a little bit. Even this slight well, I don't know. It's okay. Well, the dad drove her home, so I'd start with that. Ah, yeah, that's a good point. Calling him and asking. Yeah. Sounds good to me. No, we don't want to fight with him. Is this whole section about, like, fighting? Like she is at her house? Ah, yeah, that's fair. Why don't we just go check on her? I guess that's kind of like an invasion, but it doesn't hurt to like knock on the door, right? And, like see if her parents are home and know what's going on, or I don't know. So we're not doing that because that's silly. We're not doing that. Why would this cause a fight between us? I'm so confused. What is that? Relieved that he had put it away? Why? Smile? Sure, I guess this. Unless she left, of course, yeah. I don't know why all of these options result in, like, why there's so many negative ones towards him right now. I guess this is the arguments section. It was called talks, but I think it was arguments. Even the slight lessening of tension between you and Cove was working wonders on your shaking heart. The last thing any of you needed was more division among your friends. A silence stretched on in what felt like hours, but it likely wasn't that long before there was a knock at your bedroom door, and Mom peeked in. Just wanted to check in on you. Oh, Cove, when did you get here? When she saw you were there, she opened the door all the way. Ma was standing there as well. She slipped past her wife to come inside your space. What's going on? We're okay. It's just Miranda called earlier. She and Terry are fighting, but none of us know what's going on with Terry. Oh, busted. Yeah. Have they never caught him sneaking in the window in all these years? Your parents exchanged a meaningful look, though its meaning was lost on you. That's too bad. I'm sorry there's trouble with your friend, sweetie. Is there anything we can do to help? Out of the corner of your eye, you saw Cove rub his arm awkwardly, unable to add anything. No, we're just waiting to see if Terry calls, or texts, or if Miranda does. Well, we can at least help you take your mind off things while you're waiting. Another great idea, Lonnie. We can get the whole gang together for some quality time. Mom gave you a soft smile and added, This'll be good, especially since it might make up for what happened at the farmer's market. Oh! I wonder if it only mentions this if you do this one first. Huh. Or second, rather. Like after the farmer's market. I don't know. Yes, it'll be wonderful. I'll go see what Liz is up to right now. Excited, she fluttered a few steps away, then stopped. She pivoted on her heels and raised a single finger, flashing a big smile at Cove. And of course, Cliff will be welcome too. Knowing your family was always there for you, that couldn't be underestimated. In fact, it meant everything to you that your moms cared so much. I really appreciate this. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. That's nice of you. You're both very welcome. Don't sweat it, not so, kiddos. Leave things to us. Just relax, and we'll call you when it's all together. You nodded, and your moms dispersed for now, springing into action for their impromptu get-together. What if we need to leave? You flopped down on your bed, feeling like you could sink into it and disappear. Cove, meanwhile, took a spot on a chair off to the side. You sighed at the same time, and Cove's mouth pulled into a bent smile at that. He gave his phone another quick check and his eyebrows furrowed. Still nothing? Yeah, this is crap, huh? Yep. Cove chewed the inside of his cheek, as if to mimic the stress that was clearly eating away at him. I've never thought of it like that before, that's funny. Cove, what's wrong? What's really wrong? One disagreement doesn't make you act like this. Uh-oh. Is there some history? Did we not know something between the three of our friends? Oh no. That got a pointed pause in his movement. Cove was carefully trying to put his thoughts together. He spoke in a fragile voice. When people you care about, when they're unhappy with each other, there's nothing you can do. At least when you're in a fight yourself, you have some responsibility, some control over it all. I wish it didn't have to happen, but that isn't possible, so... Oh well, I guess. His attempt at giving a nonchalant shrug after that was pitiable. Yeah, it makes me feel pretty terrible too. In your lap, your hands momentarily curled into fists. This kind of powerlessness, it wore you down. Trauma from the divorce process of his parents? Probably, yeah. That's what I was thinking as well. I could definitely see that being a factor. You looked at Cove and were reassured by his understanding nod. There was a question you had to ask. You nailed it, Sky. Is it because of what happened with your parents? Oh. Cove ran a hand through his hair, a strange smile spreading across his lips. For him, this pain struck close to his heart. Just as quickly as it had come, the smile was gone, lost amidst his faraway gaze. Yeah, you got it. It's like my parents. Despite knowing him for so many years, Cove had never spoken of the years before he moved to Sunset Bird, before his parents separated in any detail. He whispered his thoughts distantly, almost unconcerned with whether you could hear them or not. They used to fight all the time. I think they got along when I was a baby. I mean, they had to have wanted to be with each other at some point. But when I was old enough to remember anything, it was already bad. Oh dang, this game really hits close to home sometimes, yeah. The message was blocked because of the F word. There was always something wrong and I could never help. I just wanted them to be happy. You tried to imagine your moms breaking up, and the very idea scared you. But Cove had endured that for real. I'm sorry. Gemstone. It's okay. Despite that revelation, Cove gazed reassuringly at you. It's not like that anymore. Things are so different now, I don't even really think about it. Again, the sorrow reasserted itself. When he continued, you could barely hear him. Though I guess it's pretty obvious I haven't forgotten either. You crossed the room and took his hand. He shot up out of his seat as you approached, but didn't resist as you gently took his hand. Your head fell to his shoulder, and you squeezed his hand reassuringly. You saw him watching you with glossy eyes. Then Cove sighed contentedly, his mouth pulling into a soft smile. Wordlessly, you knew that he understood. You felt at peace with him there. When he gripped your hand back, you knew that he had felt it too. The two of you took a seat again, but this time side by side on your bed. Today was a lot, huh? It still is. Yeah, it was. You leaned against him. Resting the side of your head onto his shoulder, you glanced up at his face. Cove watched you affectionately. In that gentle gaze, you finally felt like everything was going to be okay. No matter what happens, we can make it work. His mouth pulled into a bent smile at that. You chuckled, resting your head comfortably back on his shoulder. I think so too. And for a while you stayed like that. A comfortable quiet fell between you, and the sun fell with it. The warming calm ended when Cove gasped. What? The warming calm ended when Cove gasped sharply. You spun, half expecting to find him nursing an injury, but instead found him staring straight ahead. What? I think my phone just vibrated. Check it out. Right. He patted his pockets, fumbling in his panic, and yanked the phone out. The force of the action nearly catapulted the device out of his grip entirely, but he caught it just in time. His eyes honed in on the screen. It's Terry. Thank God. She says she's sorry. He looked back to you, eyes wide, as his nerves started to fray once more. What should I say? Ask her what's going on. Okay. He flashed you a shaky smile as he began to type. You suspected that he'd had similar thoughts himself, but wanted the reassurance of a second opinion. And that's why there were so many negative options earlier. Cove saw this as a scenario in which he felt like he could do something to help, to the point that he was willing to go against the MC's possible views on personal boundaries and possibly get into a fight over it. Ah, wise. Thank you, Nintendo. That definitely makes a lot of sense. Yeah. If I thought he was going too far, but he knew that he needed to press for it, yeah. Cove's phone buzzed nearly as soon as the message was sent. It's Terry again. She's talking to us. She asked about what Miranda said, but wait. You leaned in, watching the conversation unfold on Cove's screen. She's gonna actually call. Cove held his breath as he waited. Though he was good with people, he'd never been at ease managing conflict. His phone rang out. Cove jammed the answer button. He switched the phone to speaker mode, allowing you to participate in the conversation. But despite his immediate reaction, his voice lacked the same resolve when he spoke. Hey. It was tentative, a white flag fluttering in the wind. Gemstone is here too. Hi, we've been worried about you. Hey, buddies. Terry's voice was barely recognizable without her usual quick patter and energy. Are things okay? I don't know. Probably not. Cove tensed, his free hand coiling into an anxious fist. Can you talk to us about what happened? Don't you know already? Miranda explained some of it, but it doesn't make sense to us. You heard Terry sigh over the phone as she unburdened herself. Pretty much, I was at Randy's house. We decided to watch some movies she super liked and that I'd never seen before. Turns out there was a lot of those. We watched one, then another, and another. We were having so much fun. Each time one finished, she had another one to share with me. I didn't really think about it at the time. I only wanted to say yes to Randy and watch her movies. She spoke wistfully, but her words were full of affection. It was Randy, you know? I wasn't thinking about my schedule or what time it was. I get it. Then I finally saw the time, and oh no, it was way too late. I already knew I couldn't stay. She took a deep breath, her voice becoming softer when she resumed talking. I was so stressed out. I just couldn't deal with it. Miranda wanted to help. She kept coming up with ways to make it better and trying to figure out why I was so upset and stuff. I was trying to answer her questions, and there were so many, but I couldn't really answer all of them. I didn't even know why some of her ideas didn't work with me. It made my head ache. I still had the first problem and Randy there, trying to help, blasting all these questions and suggestions at me faster than I could even think. She gulped audibly, sniffing. I got frustrated and told her to just leave me alone. And then she wanted to talk about why I wanted that. And we started having a fight in the kitchen. It woke Randy's dad up. We told him about how I wanted to go home, but my parents couldn't get me, so Mr. Eckert offered to do it. That's nice of him. Terry groaned. I know. I accepted because I definitely couldn't stay then. Not after throwing a racket and turning it into a big deal. But I feel awful and embarrassed. Why did I yell at Randy and hurt her feelings? And I made her dad lose sleep by waking him up and having to drive me home. What do you say after that? I have no idea. I don't know where to start. And I don't want to make it worse by saying the wrong thing and fighting again. So, I'm not talking. Oh, Terry, Randy isn't mad that you didn't want to stay or that you fought. She just wants to feel like you can talk with her. She get, overloaded. I mean, you can say whatever you want. She'll listen. Not talking to her at all is pretty much the only wrong way to go about it. Terry lamented mournfully on the other side of the line, but he had a point. Unless she faced Miranda again, there would be no resolution. You looked at Cove, hunched over the phone, staring pensively into it and searching for a solution. This couldn't be solved with the other key party missing. Sorry, with the other key party missing. But what if you brought them in? Your phone was still free. Let's not do it without saying anything. You suggested calling up Miranda now. What if we called Miranda? That way you could talk to her, but wouldn't have to do it alone. Cove brightened up. The concerned furrow in his brow, which had taken root when Miranda first called, eased. That could work. Terry, are you up for it? She made a noise that wasn't a word, but nevertheless conveyed her hesitation and worry. But she brought it to a close with a decisive exhalation, as if pushing all negative thoughts from her body. All right, I'll do it. Cove nodded. Now that you'd received approval from everyone, you pulled out your phone and called Miranda. You set it to speaker and waited for her to pick up. Luckily, she did. Hi, Gemstone. Her voice was still distant, as if her thoughts were elsewhere, but it was loud enough for your needs. Hi, you're on speaker. Terry is on speaker too, on Cove's phone. Oh. She paused while she digested this information. You watched the phone screen, hoping that she wouldn't hang up as a result. Oh, really? Yep, it's really me. Can you hear my voice all the way from your house to theirs and then mine? I can. You and Cove exchanged looks, waiting for the wall between them to break, and wondering who would be the one to do it. As the quiet dragged on, you caught Cove chewing his cheek. He must have weighed up the same question as you, whether to encourage the conversation along or leave Miranda and Terry to resolve it themselves. The answer came in the form of one sniff, followed by another from Cove's phone. Oh, sorry, Randy. I hope you still like me. What? You were the one acting as if you didn't like me. Her tone was defensive, no doubt a result of her wounds from last night still being raw. No way! Everyone likes Randy. You're wonderful. Your eyes met Cove's. His phone was tilted towards you, capturing the call indirectly. You moved your phone closer to his, hoping that the signal was strong enough to convey every nuance of tone. Cove did likewise, bringing his cell phone right next to yours, even bumping against it as she shifted his grip. I didn't know what to say. That's the only reason I wouldn't talk to you. If I had known the answer, I'd have told you right away. Miranda murmured on the other end of the line. You didn't want to stay. Anything I tried to do bothered you, and you could have told me you didn't know. Yeah, I think I was angry at myself. I did a dumb thing, and I didn't want help with it. I wanted to be mad and just deal with it myself. It made me keep doing dumb things. Oh. When she spoke again, her voice was quiet, as tender and vulnerable as the words. Staying up late watching stuff was all my fault. I had to find a way to fix it. That's what I thought anyway. But I should have given you space. I'm sorry for being so pushy and sensitive. Hardly. Miranda Eckert having a flaw? I've never heard of such a crazy thing. Miranda let out a ghost of a giggle. Cove cleared his throat. Maybe you should call each other now? Sorry. Can do. Thanks for giving me the kick in the butt to do this already. Randy Mandy, I'm gonna call you right now. Bye, Gemstone and Cove. She hung up after squeezing in another quick bye, though not giving you or Cove room to respond in kind. Miranda laughed, the noise tinkling gently like wind chimes in a summer breeze. Thank you for listening and helping. I'm gonna hang up now so I can answer Terry's call. Bye. Bye, and good luck. Bye. Talk to you soon. Miranda hung up, still chuckling softly as your call ended. Oh, so many voices to switch between. The room felt emptier without the other voices in it. Cove expelled a sigh that crashed through the newly fallen silence. He dropped his arms to his sides, letting his head hang down like a puppet at rest. Thank goodness. I'm so relieved it's okay. Cove scratched at his face, his expression cloudy. I think I need to find better ways for dealing with conflict, because that was awful. We could all probably do better than that. At that, Cove meekly smiled as he rubbed at his eyes, weariness creeping over him, and mumbled his next words. We can talk about it another day. Conflict resolution methods? Huh? Oh, no. Forget it. Was he gonna tell us? He was gonna tell us, though. Yeah. Your eyebrows rose, and then a light bulb went off in your head. Before Miranda called, didn't you say there was something you'd wanted to say? Cove's original visit had been thrown so off-kilter that it was a struggle to wind your memory back to when he'd first turned up. Now you did, though. You remembered that he had been perky when he'd arrived this afternoon. Was it good news? Cove brushed his hands against his now folded arms shyly. Well, yeah, maybe. I'm not exactly sure it counts as news or even good. It just is what it is. I'm happy about it, though. You were curious, but you didn't want to push Cove if he didn't want to speak about it. You don't have to say anything, but if it makes you feel good, I think it is good news. Cove chuckled awkwardly, a hand creeping up to ruffle the hair on the back of his head. It's fine. If you want to hear, I can tell you. He shifted on his feet, as if a different posture might give him the support he needed for the conversation. Did he get into his school of choice? Oh. I didn't want to make it a big deal, but I well, not kind of. I just know what my sexuality is now. Okay. Oh. A real subject change, huh? He chuckled. True, it was unexpected, but you were excited that Cove had come to understand himself more, and glad he wanted to share that with you. That's great. Tell me more? Cove drew a breath, straightening up. That's my answer. I'm demisexual. So, most of the time, I don't really have those kinds of feelings. Physical wants and stuff. It's only in some situations, when I'm already really emotionally and romantically connected to someone, that I start to ever think about anything sexual, and it's only with them. I hadn't heard the term until pretty recently, and it just made a lot of sense once I knew what it meant. I had a word that fit how I felt. And I'm pan-romantic, because I've never had a preference for a specific gender or anything, so yeah. That makes sense. Cove looked down at the floor, being so open and direct about a matter that personal, which you were sure he'd spent a long time trying to figure out, seemed to be kind of weird for him. Despite that, there was a small, proud smile on his face, and when he looked up again, his gaze was steadfast. All this talk of Cove's sexuality made you reflect about your own. Again? Hadn't wavered. Cove had known for years now. It was heartwarming that he had reached a point where he felt similarly capable of discussing his own. You felt even closer. You felt his tiredness deep in the marrow of your bones. It had been a trying day. Now everything was neatly wrapped up. For today at least, and you had earned a rest. You'd had some good talks, and come out of it not only knowing each other better, but yourself too. Oh, I wonder if we had gotten in a fight if he wouldn't have felt comfortable bringing it up. Hey, we should probably head downstairs soon. If your moms are still wanting to get everyone together? Yeah, that's right. With a renewed spring in your step, you led the way out of your room. You got downstairs to find the others already assembled and waiting. Hello. Hey. Good to see you both. Hey, here we are. Trying to corral everyone into a group, but the two of you were already upstairs this whole time. Of course we were together. You paid Gemstone to stick with me. Or did you forget? The statement was meaningless to your family, who looked to each other for answers in vain. Mr. Holden, who got the message loud and clear, seemed embarrassed. He chuckled nervously, rubbing the back of his neck. Ouch, son. You always know when to remind me of that one. I can't let you live it down yet. Can we hear exactly what the secret is? The suspense is killing us. Alright. I'd better get everyone up to speed. He held up his hands, palms out, pacifying his audience. Or perhaps holding them up as a shield in advance. The first day I met Gemstone, I'd been worried about Cove being alone for the summer. There weren't a lot of kids around, and he wasn't exactly on the best terms with me at the time. He glanced around at your family, gauging their responses. I felt like this was my one shot, so I kinda offered her $20 to be friends with Cove, and added that she couldn't tell him about it. Liz gasped. Ma was staring incredulously at Mr. Holden, while Mom's eyebrows had retreated to her hairline. You and Cove, already knowing the story, were the only ones unaffected. This is so funny. But after a while, I really did honestly forget it even happened. He raised his hands higher, now level with his shoulders. Not a bad idea, you thought. If Mom felt inclined to throw a cushion at him, he'd probably manage to block it in time. I know, that's bad, but I've had so many grand ideas over the years, it's hard to keep track of them all. Cove smiled, placing his hands on his hips and shaking his head at his father's antics. I can't believe you, though also, I totally can. Your moms were less indulgent. The shock had ebbed away to displeasure. Oh. Mom's foot was tapping rapidly as she frowned at the next-door neighbor, while Ma had her arms crossed over her chest with her lips pursed. I'm sorry, Gemstone. And I'm sorry to your parents, too. That was way out of bounds. Don't worry about it. Everything worked out. Your moms gave each other that look, where they seemed to communicate with eyes alone. All right, well, that's that then. And it won't happen again. It definitely won't. Good. It was a little surprising that they were letting him off the hook. But on the other hand, it was a long time ago now, and you were sure your moms remembered those painful early days of Cove's arrival too. Mr. Holden wasn't a potential bad influence anymore, so a lecture would be pretty moot. Instead, your ma gave him a lenient smile. Now that it's settled, why don't we find something to do? Nods of agreement cascaded through the group in a couple waves at the suggestion. Mr. Holden's shoulders slumped with a release of tension. He brought his hands down, tucking them away into his pockets. How about cards? There was a murmur of interest from the others. It was fine with you. Most of the group was eager to play, but Mr. Holden was demurring. I think I'll sit this one out. Where's the fun in that? Join in. We're not too angry with you. They're upset about this, but totally cool with Cove climbing in your window randomly all the time. I'm sure they'll register that situation later. They were too concerned with the friendship drama, but once they get a chance to think about it, I'm sure we had no talking to. Yes, and I know there's a lot of people, but we can make it work. Mr. Holden shrunk into himself, embarrassed by their attention. Dad, you love playing cards. We do it at our house all the time. Dad? Mr. Holden broke under the combined force of everyone's attention. Cove, you're an adult now. You deserve to know the truth. Huh? I used to throw the card games so you could win. No! I put up a good fight, but I always made sure to lose a lot more rounds than I won. He toyed with the end of his ponytail, clearly distressed at the second great secret he was revealing today. I know people want to be taken seriously, and fake wins don't mean as much, but I couldn't help myself. It's so much better when everyone else got the chance to be victorious. Gyra knew and went along with it. Cove laughed in disbelief that this was the thing his dad stressed about hiding, after all the other stunts he's pulled over the years. So what? Lots of parents do that. I hadn't guessed it, sure, though looking back it makes sense. That's right. What's the big deal, Cliff? You can finally take the kid gloves off and give them a run for their money. Maybe even actual money in your case. Don't gamble, please. Mr. Holden smiled coyly, his gaze lowering. I'm not sure that's a good idea. And why not? He waved his hands expansively, the movements fluid and vague. I'm something of a card shark. I used to make lots of fast cash-off games. Casual players don't have a shot unless it's a game of pure luck. Whoa, Mr. Holden. Cove's jaw hung open, his wide eyes fixed on his father. Really? There was a touch of amazement, even admiration, nestled among the shock. The other members of the Holsiki family exchanged looks, ranging from Liz's disbelief to Mom's intrigue, with Ma somewhere in the middle between the two. You can't simply make a claim like that and expect us to go along with it. Let's see you back it up, Shark Man. Mr. Holden gave her a crooked smile, his demureness quickly being replaced with the confidence of someone very skilled or very misguided. Priorities, lol. With the whiplash this had given me already, I was expecting admitting a gambling addiction. Yeah. You sure about that? Definitely. We've got to see this so-called non-casual player in action. Well, I might be able. Though who knows? Maybe I've gotten rusty. Excuses! His coyness continued to rile the gang up, and he was getting a kick out of it now. Come on, please. I can dust off the old tricks. Great! Cove beamed at his father while Mom clapped Mr. Holden on the back. Liz darted off to get a deck of cards, while the rest of you settled in for the game. Hands were dealt. Mr. Holden wasted no time proving his words true, wiping the floor with all of you. You played several rounds, even switching games, but none of you were a match for him. That was how the alliance came to be forged. The rest of you joined forces against Mr. Holden only, just to try increasing the odds of beating him. With all your combined efforts, you pulled out a few victories, yet it was still a challenge. He was clearly a professional. If these were his skills now, rusty with disuse, you couldn't even imagine what a deadly opponent he had been in the past. Despite that, you still had fun. Working cooperatively actually fostered a sense of camaraderie with the others. Mr. Holden didn't appear fazed by this strategy. You actually wondered whether the increased challenge made it more interesting for him. You spent the rest of the afternoon together with your family and the Holdens, having fun. It was an interesting evening for sure, with many discoveries for everyone. It was freeing, and yet simultaneously you felt more tied together than you had been before. Wow. Huh? Oh. Alrighty. That was so fun. Sorry, stretch. Well, that was a fun day. We had a lovely dinner with Cove, and then a hangout with Cove, and then family drama with family and friend drama. Well, mostly friend drama. Friend drama with Cove. Luckily not between Cove and I, but I feel like that went pretty well today. But as I mentioned before, I will be away next week, so there'll be no stream, but the week after that I should be back with, it looks like, the last part of this game for now. So look forward to that. I am both excited and sad because this game is absolutely precious. I love it so much. But hopefully we'll be able to fully finish it in the last one and not have like a few minutes left for the week after. Depends if I'm working or not, but thank you so much for joining. I hope that you enjoyed. Have a wonderful day, and farewell.